All right, we're live.
Erik Olson.
And that's 4 to 6 minutes, I believe. I recently heard a story, a presentation actually, by a guy named Joe. I changed his name, that's not his real name, but we use Joe. Joe was at in an auditorium of 100 people, and he gave a presentation that I will talk a little bit about, but he had really bad slides. He was obviously nervous because in the first 10 seconds I counted 20 ums, and he didn't really have a confident speech. Now, I was in the back of the room intentionally so I could look at his presentation slides and sort of be inner critic. Wasn't really why I was there, but it ended up being not a great presentation. The feeling in the audience was, as one person next to me whispered to his friend, "I don't get it." No one really understood what the guy was talking about. I'm hoping by the end of this you'll know what I'm talking about. I wrote down in my diary here that day, help people give good presentations, or great presentations. That was about a month ago. So that's sort of one of my purposes now in life. It goes back further, but I'll get to that in a moment. So my name's Erik. I'm going to talk about 3 things. One is about giving great presentations. Secondly is how did I get to Blacksburg from a long ways away. And third thing is 3 little stories about presentations and what we can learn from these that I've observed. And these are just a couple examples. So one is just a rhetorical question, that is, what is a great presentation? In my mind, it's a presentation that's easy to follow and easy to remember. Sort of good guidelines, I think. If we can remember what the person said, we can follow them as they're going along. That is a good or great presentation. There's other things you could talk about, like being inspiring and uplifting other things. But for me, it's about understandability and being easy to follow. What happened in this whole period after I heard this guy Joe, the same week I ran across an article called, it's in a magazine called Ergonomics in Design. And in this magazine was an article about PowerPoint presentation guidelines. And the bottom line with this article was saying, when you use PowerPoint, it should be something that helps increase the impact of your presentation, not detract from it. And this guy had not read the article, obviously. It talked about font guidelines, what color your font should be, and how you contrast that with other colors, like the background. How to deal with making sure it's comprehensible in your layout with images and that kind of thing. And again, bottom line is how it can increase the impact of your presentation so it's a great presentation. Joe had not read this article. He was not well organized. His slides were not great. And I was hoping that someday I could serve as a catalyst to help him become better. So, my second point was how I got here in Blacksburg. I'll go way back now. I went to undergraduate school in Long Beach, California. And probably my 3rd class I ever took was in public speaking. I was not a speech major at the time, but what I enjoyed as a sophomore was seeing my progress. I was able to stand up in front of an audience and be less nervous. I had a structure, how to do a presentation, and I was willing to raise my hand in class and ask questions, which as a high school kid I was never willing to do. So my comments became better and better, and I actually changed my major from business to speech communications because of it. I then graduated. I had gotten involved in leadership and some other things, so I was able to use my public speaking skills in various opportunities. Then graduated, did sales and customer service, which of course as a speech major was a great tool in those situations. After a couple years of working, I decided to go back to school, and I went to San Jose State, which is near San Francisco. San Jose State has a program in ergonomics and research. And ergonomics, as you may have heard, is a word that means basically making things user-friendly. It could be a product, it could be a computer interface, or it could be a presentation. So that was sort of, I went back to that when I heard Joe talking, I thought, I need to help people make user-friendly presentations. So I've talked a little bit about what a great presentation is, how I got here. There's a little snippet of how I got here. I came back to Blacksburg because I wanted to study more about ergonomics, and they have a great program here at Virginia Tech. And I studied ergonomics in transportation, actually, how people drive their cars and get distracted by things that they hold in their hands while they drive. And and how to make that a more user-friendly situation. Turn off the phone is the first thing. But I want to jump into 3 quick examples. One I've talked about, but I'll talk about Joe in a second. Bob Summers, some of you may know this name. He's an entrepreneur in the area who opened a new company downtown Blacksburg. He gave a great presentation recently. His slides were awesome, but he had one problem he didn't anticipate, and that was the lighting in the room bleached out the bottom of his slides. You could not read the text on his slides. Again, his presentation was great. We were all inspired, but the very last slide was his contact information. And on gray on white, he had his email, and I couldn't read it because it was bleached out. I quickly sent him an email the next day with a doctored up version of what he could have done. I showed bigger font with black, and I said, even with the light, you might have been able to show your presentation slide with your contact information. Second quick example is Kim. She's a woman who's working on proposal defense right now that I'm helping with. I saw a draft of her presentation, and she had really busy slides. They were pretty good, but they just had 6 or 7 points on one slide. So we're working together now to help get her slides more simple for her proposal defense committee to understand. And last, of course, is Joe. Poor Joe. I asked him, I actually got to meet with him, and I asked him, how did you think it went? He said, it was awful. So that was about all I could really say. I've actually emailed him, talked to him a little bit. I'm hoping to help him become a great presenter as well, and give him some tips about that guideline or article I read. So I'm a little over time, but I did talk briefly about what I think a great presentation is. It's something that's easy to follow, something that's memorable, and something that you can understand. Give you a little snippet about my background in speech communication and ergonomics and how I got to Blacksburg. And then gave you the 3 examples of Bob and his bleached out slides, Kim and her busy proposal defense slides, and maybe Joe. Maybe Joe will become here someday to give his next presentation. Who knows?